a Brazil enjoyer? You're a Brazil enthusiast?
Yeah, I mean,
just trying to slip enthusiast into the end of...
You're trying to get your dictionary, and you must sit there just with a dictionary thinking, what word should I choose today?
I'm just trying to invent words, you see. I'm just trying to bring a new level. Yeah, we're starting here. We're on towards Consulate. Wolves, obviously, things haven't really gone their way. Do you think that's a fair and kind way of putting it?
Yeah, let's have a little discussion about Wolves, because obviously this is the team which are kind of going through the fire at the moment, where they're just getting burned nearly every single game they're going into. Yeah, they've had one win the entire stage, and that was, I believe, the second playday against Fnatic. They're on a 4 losing streak since then. And it's not just the fact they're on a 4 losing streak. Last week was a big hit to them because they lost to Wild and Gen G back-to-back. And at the time, those two teams were below Wolves in the standings. You know, same way we looked at Gen G and Wild, you thought, where are these wins going to come from? You know, the only win that Wild has had is over Wolves. Wolves right now are the worst team in the league. And nobody would have expected that, considering the players that they have. Whenever this team was put together, you kind of thought, okay, they can work with something. You're bringing in experienced players. You've had Leader, you've had Noodle, who's seen on main stages of majors. You've got Azure, who's been a household name inside of EU for ages. Tyrant obviously has his own history, back in the M&M days, played for Fnatic. You bring in a new rookie into Krex, which did very well in the Challenger League series. You think, on paper, this should work. But the team is just not gelled. Exactly, that's it. Siege hasn't played on paper, and this team it's the rude awakening for them. You know, it's all good in theory. Theory does not pay the bills. You have to go out and do it. That's how you get paid.
Throwing frag.
Well, let's see if they can try and put a little bit more into the blood bank as they did last playday. Because yes, it was a bad week, but it ended in a worse way, getting only 1 round on Cafe against Gen G, who just sort of took control of the game on the paper scoreboard. Now they get to start on their attack. Is this going to be something that works in towards their benefit? The pressure comes around here on towards the top of Yellow, getting the keen eyes on Spiral. They are well aware of players inside Piano, but it's the option of, do we want to try and opt for this fight first, root them out, or just send it? Know they're down there and know that maybe we could try and do a bit of a strike on the site itself. It seems like, Demo, they're running the numbers and being in a position to catch this player as the pressure comes through, but somebody has to apply the pressure here. Who's going to be the one that takes the bite and the fate? Or, well, just prepare for it. Don't go for the fight.
Yeah, it's looking pretty obvious it's going to be that single window swinging, isn't it? You can see the diffuser is on Tyrant, who's on that Ying, but they know that this player's down here, but they can't really make a move for a site execute, because obviously Akwi being down here, he has impacts, he can impact the planter as they come in. He will be spotted out and very swiftly dealt with by Noodle. That's good from Wolves, and again, it's what kind of Jack was talking about on the sofa. The early game for Wolves has been a strong point. It's the execution which has let them down. So, yes, they've started off well, but we know this team by now, Fluke. Do we trust them? Do we trust them yet? I don't know.
Well, they have time to build trust as Akwi goes down first. We'll see if, obviously, with a minute left and still some utility to have to juggle their way around. I mean, you know the plant, you know the play, and at this point, you just have to trust that the pressure comes together. They're ready, Tyrant, to roll it out as soon as they get a second. The smoke canisters in the pocket of Dora are going to be a big blow potential that might try and force things further forward. The pressure on the cross to the window gets locked out as Lolo gets one more, and now there starts to be a little bit of a back and forth. But there are those smoke canisters I talk about, and Wolves, they have to just sit here and wait and wait and wait, and it's a very uncomfortable situation. And without somebody putting on the pressure, well, that's the idea of this take. More Candelas, hoping to bait out more utility, but look at the time, Demo. 20 seconds, another smoke's gone out, another Candela. They're just going in and out, but at this point, by the time you get up, you're going to have one chance, one opportunity. So Noodle flies up, gets one, can't thread the needle onto the second. They're going for the blind in behind the desk. They might not know about the desk position player, but they go out once again, bait the last smoke, and it's all just down to Leader. Here, the pressure, but with 9 seconds, it takes the one player behind the desk to finish this off. Lolo's got it locked down, and that's the round out, just on time at this point.
Oh dear. Same issues for Wolves again. They set up well, they've got that first pick. They identified that the issue is obviously going to be someone below. You know, absolute freebie on the Akwi, no problems there. And they just took so long. You know, they're sitting there trying to bait out the smoke. And here's the difference, though, with baiting out smoke on that site compared to any other kind of traditional site that we expect. Sure, we see it plenty of times where a team will try and bait out smoke grenades. Let's take bank basement, for example, yeah? Open up that single wall in towards server, and you just kind of go in and plant, smoke goes out, wait for it, back in again, plant. The difference is, with that bomb site, is you have to swing in a window. So the smoke dissipates, and you have to take another few seconds to swing in again, and then jump out again. It's a much lengthier process compared to what we usually see whenever you're trying to play that strategy. If you're going to attack this top floor in the manner that they are, where you're bringing in the ying, you're looking at just repelling in through that single window, you have to just full commit. They did not want to full commit to that whatsoever. Once MACKO knew that they were going to go for that play, they were just going to try and keep going in for the single window. MACKO are just looking the one direction. There's no back pressure, there's no backstab coming in from a Wolves team. All of it's coming from the one direction, and it is so easy for MACKO just to rotate players into those tricky positions. You look at the position that Lola was in behind that desk. Nobody was there to remove him. They just needed to think, okay, 3, 2, 1, everyone go. If you die, you die. But trying to play like that, you're always going to lose.
Activating shock drone.
So a false start, but it could be the trickiest site to hold now. Bit of an aggressive player in Ghost's performance here. Wanted to try and distort and slow down any of the chance at the breach, but just waited and baited there. Underneath the unshot camera, the Nook was a gift. Unfortunately, nothing that MACKO wanted. So, Ghost, I said that we're playing that aggressively from that position, putting the keepers on towards it, and all for what, really? To try and slow down the break on towards Secret. Secret will be opened, and now you're just out of the keepers. You're out of your army. You're out of one of the best operators in the game.
Yeah. I said before about the Italians, the aggression that this team can have is scary. You know, I always look at some of these players as they were raised in the FPL lobbies, you know, back in, 2022, 2023. I always looked at, Lolo and Dora, especially. If anyone used to watch, whenever the FPL streams are really going, I always looked at those two as the gruesome twosome. Because those two as a duo were unfathomable, the way that they would just move around the map, swing every angle, and always win it. And I think that little bit of aggression that certainly MACKO have as a team, just because of the players that they have, always a tricky little team. But as long as you can control the aggression, you will do quite well against them. And at the moment, Wolves, yes, they've got the opening picks twice in a row, but Wolves have their own issues. It's always that execute that they're really struggling on. And with a minute 15 and not a lot happening at the moment, again, you worry.
I mean, that's it, right? Because we just saw there, obviously, Akwi's still happy on the top floor. The Solace was being led through by the cameras. Pressure now coming on towards the site and pillar itself, and there's a spray through, but caught on camera, and it's a trade out there, but Dora gets on the end of Noodle. And now with 50 seconds, they still have at least a little bit working for their sort of pockets, but one grenade and one flash, that's all that's left. Leader tries to push his way in, does get one on the back of the server side. It's the slow appearance here of Tyrant, hoping he can still go uncontested, but at this point they're not trusting the cameras, and that's sort of a downside here. They're trying to tuck their way in. As you pointed out, the diffuser is not currently in the hands of the pocket of the players. They're just going to go for the fight itself. There's the swing, the reveal. There's too many options, but Dora gets them all almost. Tep goes down, and it's just Dora left to 2 versus 1. Can't get the angle. And Tyrant on the Nook starts and ends the round.
Oh, again, almost for Wolves, nearly throwing that away. Tyrant had to come in big with 2 kills. He just bided his time. There was nothing stopping him walking down Spiral. It was free real estate for him, which worked out really well for Wolves. But again, not the cleanest of takes there from Wolves. No real pressure, I think, coming in from the site. It's not as though you're seeing the kind of traditional take where you'd go above and apply vertical pressure onto the defenders in the site. They just, again, Cam just played off this first pick, wasn't it? And they thought, okay, we have the numbers. We'll just trade back and forth. And that's kind of what happened for them. Maybe MACKO lacking in the slowdown department, missing some key bits of util. Maybe another trap operator would maybe help them out. I didn't really hear any goo mines go off per se. So maybe that's something they look in, if Wolves are looking to play kind of in towards the gunfight territory, bring in those operators, which is going to give you that advantage.
It's one of the sort of strange setups there, obviously, of how they wanted to play that. You talked about it, of MACKO being very aggressive players. You look at the hold that I said as, sacrificing on the altar of Visa for a little bit of slowdown time is good, but then playing the Solus on the top and sort of almost, in a way, hoping they're going to play a big drone game against you and you can bait out the time and bait out the utility.
The location of a bomb.
It almost feels like there, as you said, there's more options for how MACKO could play against Wolves, but is it how MACKO like to play? I think they trust themselves to have the operators where they can just move around the site and be aggressive and move around the map and be aggressive rather than sitting behind gadgetry. I mean, you know, they've got the pulse underneath, just a classic with the EG skin. Shout out to Canadian. They do have the Malusi.
Shout out to Canadian.
Shout out to Canadian. I mean, you're playing the pulse,
Was that the first one that they had for EG? No, or was it the Ash skin? What came first, the Ash or the Pulse?
I don't know.
I want to say it was Ash.
Loading new magazine.
And then I think Pulse came after. Someone can fact check me, but I think I'm right. I think I am.
You think?
Yeah. I do sometimes, not all the time. When I want to. I think the Wolves approach is obviously, you kind of look at the lineup for MACKO. Yeah, straight away the Malusi comes in. Let's bring in that Brava. And again, this just plays into the way Wolves are kind of approaching this. Same way they approach that basement. It's this kind of lurk playstyle, isn't it? It feels as though all of them are just in the shadows, looking to see if they can surprise a player of MACKO. And really the way that you would like to counter this, if you're, you know, a side of MACKO, is double up yourself. Don't just kind of roam off on the lonesome. Work with a teammate, so if you do get caught by surprise, your teammate is there immediately for the trade. So I hope that MACKO will follow suit with that plan.
Ready for the hop in here, the pulse, just bleeding all this info. They've got that immediately, and
heartbeat sensor activated.
You know, they went for the option, went for the fight. The Brava's gone.
What was that?
It was an attempt.
Where's everyone else?
Attempting something else. Going for the take on towards the top. Noodle slips their way in. They're able to get themselves pretty much across, but it's... Ooh, close fight. Ghost is down, but... Well, they only know that now at the cost of a flash, but I think that's a fine trade off. Still, it seemed like everybody else just abandoned the vertical. As soon as they got that first fight, they went, nah, they can take it. We'll play underneath. We still got the pulse. We still have a C4. We still have time in our favor.
Yeah. You can even rotate, you know, the impacts downstairs as well if they need to. I'm sure there's probably a bulletproof as well somewhere in the site, which will give some pretty good information. Again, it's timing here for Wolves. They're not going to have the time and resources to go below and actually hunt this pulse. So yeah, that is going to be the immediate danger here for Wolves. If they want to try and get a plant down, it's going to be really difficult for them for that pulse. It's just a case of, do they know that he's out here? I mean, he's going to go for the run out. Oh, what are you doing, Lolo? Completely plays into the hands of Wolves. I don't know what he was thinking. Now it's a 2v4.
I mean, dropped right into the weighing hands of Akwi. The time is about to tick away. There's a vertical fight and a flat one with all the players running. Round the C4 with the double demo! Tep defines it! Oh, a single piece of util, and I said that they were confident to play underneath.
There's that BP.
I don't really mean like that, though.
Oh, dear. Oh, dear. I mean, I honestly thought that MACKO just tossed that out the window. You know, the pulse. What was the pulse thinking? Just total head loss. I don't know. Didn't need to do that. All he had to do was just sit below. I mean, there was a few issues. I mean, certainly Cracks just jumping in the way he did. I don't have a clue.
Imagine if that Bravo had been able to get rid of that bulletproof. I don't know. I'm just saying that. It's not that easy. It's nowhere near as easy as just saying it's the middle of the site, but still. No, it is a strange thing to do because unless they are so locked in they're getting that fight, you know, probably you know at that point you're about to fight somebody, right? Which means it's been droned, which means you know it's a lesion, which means you know that you're going to hit a goo as soon as you go through that window, which means you know that they have an audio cue to swing against you. Like, it's just a lot of you know, and I guess it results in a bit of uh-oh still.
Yeah. Oh boy. Another round where Wolves just can't capitalize on mistakes that their opponents are gifting them. You know, again, what it is about this team. MACKO, obviously we had that little kind of chat about Wolves at the start. MACKO, a team which obviously coming in for our Challenger Series. It was about time. We've kind of mentioned that these players have been on the cusp of Tier 1 for a very long time. And they finally get their opportunity. They get their chance. And I think they've done pleasantly well. I think for a new side coming in, it's very difficult to kind of climatize to playing inside of Tier 1. We've certainly seen that, the Wild guys have struggled in that regard. But MACKO, they've been doing well. They've had 4 total wins, 2 of them being in overtime. Only the 2 losses. I know Jack's listening. I'm sure, I'm pretty sure Jack brought up the point saying, oh, but have they beaten any of the big guys yet? No, not as of yet, but still, that'll come, I'm sure, with time. But I think for MACKO, it's just getting used to the league, isn't it? I mean, they still beat VP, though, which, can you put it down to, was that a VP blip? We don't know. But still, the point stands. I think MACKO have done very, very, very well. I think they're in really good running to get into the playoffs as well. So, yeah, credit to them.
It's always, the comparison of, like, have they beaten X? Is the win as legit as other wins? Blah, 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 yada, yada. Those things have always been thrown around for a long time about a lot of different teams and also a lot of different variables. Sometimes it's dependent on the game that you're about to go into. Sometimes it's dependent on, if someone just has eaten something bad earlier on in the day and doesn't quite feel it. You're looking at comparisons of teams where, as it was pointed out on that very same desk, you have some of the best performing players in the world hovering and teetering over not being in playoffs. Sometimes the stats of beating...
Stats lie. Stats lie.
Sometimes stats lie. I guess that's as I try to fill a tech pause with as many words as possible, sometimes the moral of the story in bold, sometimes stats lie. Some stats believers, they'll be clutching their Excel spreadsheets.
Oh, Jesse J. Chick is ready to throw hands.
Fuming.
Yeah.
Just punching the air.
He's looking at his spreadsheet thinking, what a waste of my life. Luke just said it's a waste. What have I done with these 20 years of recording Siege stats? Whatever will I do?
I'm so sorry, Jesse. I'm sorry to be the ones to break the news.
Yeah, sure. Maybe we shouldn't, because he has to cast a Parker at the end of the day, so I think we should maybe give the guy a break.
That's very, very true. Someone's got to do it, Jesse. That's...
Well, actually, I don't know if anyone's aware. Whenever, what was it? What did they call themselves? Pengtaro? Was that their name? I don't know. Whoever made that thing it was. Whenever they split up, all the talent members actually drew straws.
We did.
Sadly, Jesse got the long straw.
Yeah.
Or the short straw. What is it? I think it's long, isn't it?
I think it was the short straw.
Short?
I believe it's the short straw.
One of the two.
Straw
Either
with
way,
glasses and a lot of hair. Did you see Jesse's thread the other day for Parker's birthday about
perfection?
If as I take this tech pause again to fill it with as many words as possible, if you have not read Jesse's Twitter thread about Parker on his birthday and the different eras of Parker's clothing,
it's the cardigan for me. The cardigan, it's honestly, he loves that cardigan.
Is that sort of posting is what the R6 Pro League subreddit needs to get to. That's like the bar. So congratulations, Jesse. You're a great Redditor. We're on a tech pause. If you are just joining us now, welcome. We're on the first play day of the final play days, the Super Week. And it's currently 2-1 up. MACKO off to a... It's hard to gauge whether you would call it a strong start or not, Demo.
Yeah, is it a strong start for MACKO or a bad start for Wolves? That's the...
I think it's a bad start. Okay, stats can lie, stats can lie. Yeah. Sometimes stats can always tell the truth. A stronger team at the minute probably would have been able to capitalize on the close down of those rounds against MACKO's defense.
Yeah.
That's just the truth of the matter, but they haven't, and that's the point. And MACKO can also build off of that as well.
Yeah.
Wolves, same as they have to sit and stew in unfortunate silence.
I will make the case, though, for Wolves, this is Consulate attack, which I personally detest playing. I think it's a very difficult map to attack. So defense is always going to be your favored side. So obviously, you still have to kind of judge Wolves on how their second half goes, because they still get an opportunity to go into the defense. And look, we've seen plenty of times where this map can be, you know, one team leading 5-1, even 6-0, and then we see the other side switch, and the exact same thing happens. So it's not all said and done as of yet, with Wolves, you know, only getting 1 round out of 3 at the moment. And don't forget, they still have 3 more attacks to go as well. And the kind of second run now, where they're going to have to go and attack top floor again, they're going to probably get another chance attacking that mid floor. You would hope that Wolves will learn from their mistakes.
Now, obviously, later on, this is the sort of first of the 3 play days. Wolves, I mean, it's fair to say both have tough runs. If I had to flip a coin to say who's got the tougher run, Wolves have VP and BDS left to play. MACKO have G2 and Wild. It's close. It's narrow margins that sort of separate both points and performance from that 2 sets, but I think VP and BDS are currently fighting to prove more, if that makes sense. Obviously, G2, they're confirmed for top 6. They want to get top 2. Virtus Pro, they're technically not confirmed for top 6 yet. Things could go tragically wrong for them. They probably won't, but they could, which means that they're still
Wild
fighting
today, just for the reference.
Yeah, so we'll get a better taste of who's sort of got the rougher road, but Wolves need to kind of pull out a big 3-pointer here, get the 6 points, and sort of set their heads on the up and up, because it's not going to get any easier than it is currently today.
Yeah, I think maybe for the Wolves guys, it's the case of just playing for pride. Yeah, at this stage, I think they just forget about points. It's just getting wins, just playing for themselves, you know? Big question mark. Of course, we're correct going for that play. Yes, again, I don't know why people go for these kind of plays. You have a guaranteed win below with a pulse and a C4.
I mean,
it's still won, like, fair enough, but
I said the pulse could have been the big thing there, and they just had an off-brand pulse by the end. They just had the bulletproof and the C4. Who needs pulse? Ooh, a Tachanka clash. You're a big, I'm not going to say enthusiast again. You're a Clash enjoyer, right?
I mean, Clash is great. Tachanka, not so much.
What do you mean?
Again, I see the vision. I can see the vision.
Yeah, right. I think that's the main thing, is you know that they're just going to assume it's a default plant spot, but also Tachanka's very good at being malleable for both. In case they sort of go for the admin take, you can still bounce them around into the default plant corner there. They're hoping that Wolves' plan B is a slow take on admin, and that Tachanka can respond to both.
Using shield.
Is Acqui about to do something silly? They're waiting. No, they're going to pull back. They had the air jab. They're out of there.
Yeah. I'm assuming Wolves are going to go for the similar strategy as what they did last time. Just based on their lineup, it's very similar. Look who has the diffuser. It's going to be that Ying again. Last time, they just didn't pull the trigger. You know, they just didn't commit enough. I want to, if they're going for this take, you just have to go for it. I would have loved to have seen them maybe bring in a shield, because the shield is great at dropping in for yellow skylight and then pushing straight into connector, which would have helped them out a lot. It just takes that ground. It stops down any of the smokes and the Tachankas who would be wanting to play in that area. You see the Tachanka in now. It doesn't allow them to use their util. But hey, they haven't went for it. I think probably Wolves, they just lack a shield player in my eyes. I think we've seen Leader kind of teeter on the Monty, for example, a few times. Noodle has tried to play the Blitz, but it's just not worked for him at all. So I just don't think this team has a shield player, which I think is a bit of a hindrance to them in the current meta. As we know, the best teams at the moment are the teams who have really proficient shield players. Wolves don't have that.
Air jab in position.
They have themselves, once again, positional awareness. But will they get punished? They're making the move, and there it is. Up from underneath. The Clash was there to offer support. They were watching for the swing, but it's sort of what I said, right? It's prediction here. It's good jobs from MACKO. They sort of realized one thing. That's 2 for 2 on us watching Krex jump into a window and lose the engagement.
I really don't know what he's doing. Like, that's just a lash out, it feels like. Yeah, Wolves, this time it's just total head loss. The strat's gone. I think they were looking at applying a bit of back pressure this time. Azure was, you know, going to attempt to get in and maybe draw some defenders away from the main take. However, Leader has just responded with a kill and a down on the Acqui. Noodle's also able to get one, and now MACKO. They've almost trolled this. However, Noodle just runs straight at Clash Shields, and another one. Tab with 2.
Well, it's a 1 versus 2 with Acqui down, technically a 1 versus 1, and all we know is exactly where he is, but he has to time this so perfectly. Both low health, and there is Leader! But my word! If I talk about MACKO being able to pull some rounds together from mistakes, I don't really know how to define the round we just saw, Demo.
Messy. Very, very messy. I'm sure everyone's heard of the hit series Game of Thrones.
Yes, we were talking about it, but earlier today.
I'm not even go down it's not even, I'm saying it's a Game of Thrones. That's the Red Wedding. It's just, you can't believe what you're watching. That's what that was. Honestly, it starts off with Wolves. I mean, as they're swinging in, gets caught by a Frostmac. Cranks jumped in, total head loss City. And then, MACKO decide to think, hang on a minute. Hold the beers. We'll have a go at just swinging needlessly. They die to Leader. 2 Wolves players rush a Clash Shield and they die. And then Leader just whips a 1v2 out of nowhere. Make it make sense.
Can't. Sorry, mate. We don't do sense here. We do
5 seconds left.
Wild Siege. 2 apiece. And, I mean, you know, if you're going to have rocky rounds, right, have them on the start. Wolves, they've been able to get themselves 2 attacks. MACKO have been able to get themselves 2 defenses. We have seen mistakes from both sides. It's just whoever sort of gets, I guess, the handle on what the other's doing. It's hard to sort of sit here and understand, or try to understand exactly what's going wrong. It's, I would say, damn near impossible. But you can see that they're still not entirely aware of what the other team wants to do. There's always a missing link, but unfortunately the missing link seems to be a pretty big factor in the holds. And I don't mean just charging at a Clash Shield, but there's the bait on a C4. And as I said, some of the stuff they're aware of. The Tibarao, is Noodle going to pull that? No, they're just going to keep it stuck there and hope that nobody...
Just has to wait.
Yeah.
Which should be fine. No impacts. Ooh, that was lucky. Oh no! Oh, barricade the door! That could have been an issue.
Position shield.
Slowly creeping their way around and back and forth, but still with no people caught. You're wondering if Wolves are just going to try and put on the Tibarao is buying more and more time. And at this point, if you're Wolves, you need to start making progress elsewhere. You need to start, you know that Tibarao is just going to juggle that. They're not really playing electricity directly against it. There's pressure coming on here. The Clash is about to put it against them, but no one's here to support bottom yellow. And now the Valkyrie's back in.
Really good. Really, really good there from the Clash. Blocks the doorway, allows this team to retreat back into sight. And it's a good play from MACKO. Look at the time. 1:15 left. No vertical pressure, again from Wolves. So they can just sit in sight as safe as they, knowing that they only have to worry about the breach, which again took so long to open up. MACKO have played this perfectly. They've kept it tight. I even like the addition of Ghost just lurking at the back, because this is going to be another thing that Wolves need to attack into. He's going to waste more and more time for them. So yeah, this is just, everything is looking MACKO right now.
45 seconds, all 10 players still standing. They don't really have a huge amount outside of some grenades and flashes to try and send their way forward here. But maybe Deimos can do some damage, but at this point they're still hunting for just loose people on the back. And it's a tight swing of Ghost to just win it out. Tucked in a corner, there's a second player dropped. Leader goes down, and here, I mean, it's still all in MACKO's favor. Wolves a bit too slow, a bit too cautious. They're about to swing back to back as Dora gets one. There's at least one, but they didn't expect to double up, because why would you? Noodle, who has been out here on the breach since we saw them at the start of the round, and it's where they finish it.
Yeah, really good for MACKO. Just understanding the push. Wolves really predictable in terms of what they're doing. Wolves are just applying no pressure at all. Where's the vertical presence? You know, they're doing this weird kind of backstab. And I just don't think that they're... I don't think they've got the right operators if you want to apply pressure like that. Backstabbing operators are great whenever there's just so much chaos going in towards the front side. You know, there was nothing that stretched MACKO out. Nobody had to rotate back to site. Nobody was feeling pressured. It was just so easy for them. You know, Wolves just not doing enough.
It's maybe the most... Yeah, it's maybe the most in-control round I think we've seen from either of the two teams. And it doesn't really feel like MACKO had to do a huge amount. They played quite... Sat on their hands, played quite simple, took her out, great, clash, great, be mobile, pull the Valk back. The Valk was obviously, you could see they were a bit worried about being trapped in that position, but nobody came for them, so they were able to just sort of extend, and there wasn't pressure elsewhere on the site, so the clash and one other player were like, yeah, we'll come help you. 3 people dedicated to a single engagement to get somebody out there, and there was nothing that came of it for a long time. It's rough, but 3-2. Wolves, they can still get themselves an even half. They get the benefit of getting onto their defense side on the second split of this. Yes, it wasn't really where anything went right on their previous playdate, but here on the second half with a bit of warming up against a different roster, who knows? Now, as they do try and go for maybe technically plan A, remember how this one ended up, and it was really just the man we're watching there, Leader, getting everything locked in, getting, I think, a triple kill, if not 4K. Screaming their way through the site. Krex has entered the building and not immediately died. They almost got swung there from yellow, though.
Reload! First time he jumped in the window and was able to jump back out again.
It's good.
See, the Banshee slowed him down. He didn't really want to push into that over towards Spiral. And the Banshee's working well as that kind of deterrent. And, you know, MACKO have definitely caught on the Wolves and saying, look, they're just trying to play with gunfights. Let's just play the traps. Don't allow them to kind of sneak up on us. I've lost the first pick, though. Down goes Acqui on the castle. Again, his util would have already been placed, so not a massive loss, but still, it would be nice to have the body. As long as that clash is alive, really, yellow is just a tricky position for any team to try and break through. You know, unless you have the full whammy of operators, like you're bringing in, you know, a shed load of nades, you're bringing in a Capitao as well, maybe. You do have the Nomad to try and make it work onto the clash, and Krex, falls out of the heavens and taps Lolo in the head, and he's into another window yet again. Looking for that player towards Baguette, but Ghost is there. Goes for the swing. 2 of them line up for him. Ghost, a huge play to keep his team in this round, but they're still out of the woods yet. It's still a 2v3 in favor of Wolves.
Noodle, he went down, he's back up, but he's got to pull that Guman out before he gets any closer, and obviously he doesn't get a second go around. It's a 3 versus 2, 50 seconds. They have time to play, still swinging on the back of the glass shield, but Dora offers the support, and well, they were isolated there. Noodle, they were stuck a bit deep, they couldn't move, could only wait for an engagement. But there was an awareness of the position of the player. The shield is dropped, but they tucked themselves round. There just needs to be a bit more of support. You know they're going to play on contact. As soon as you go for the first engagement, the second is going to pop up. No! Just driven through. Tyrant gets one. Dora, a tiny bit of help in 20 seconds. Has the ping, but gives their position away. Tyrant takes some damage. They have to rotate, but they know where they are, and they're not going to push for the kill.
Wow.
No! Dora swinging and sniping and surgically removing players as he's going to stick for the plant for now. He's pulling off. They're running in close with the shotgun. They know the engagement, but they missed the first. Missed the second, but get the third. But it was close.
Unbelievable. What a clutch from Dora. He just knew. He just knew the right angles, the swing. He just had a sixth sense about him, didn't he? Just right time, right place. I thought his movement was great, wasn't it? You know, really silky to rotate in and out of the site, catch them by surprise. Great reactions on the SMG also. Yeah, fantastic clutch. Same old woes for Wolves again. Just they're in this advantage and they just can't close it out. I mean, there was 2 massive moments. Obviously, Dora had to make the clutch. But Yeah, you have to talk about the mishap at bathroom. You know, the Malusi going.
Like, you don't want anything described as a mishap at a bathroom.
But it was like, Ghost should never be allowed just to take this swing like this.
No.
He's also very, very unfortunate that he wasn't able to get the down player because he actually got revived with a finger stim, which you don't see that all too often. But still, clutch is a clutch. MACKO never make things easy. It's something that Des mentioned. Am I right in saying this is the side who's had the clutch the most rounds in their games? It feels like it.
I think this whole game is just clutches. I don't know if they mean to be clutches, but they are. Again, it feels like we've just had one round that was in control. The first round, I guess, you know, MACKO, it came down to a couple of players in positions. They had the one behind the desk. If they weren't there, maybe it would have been. But then there's just the one round in the basement. I don't know. It's a 4-2 half. We've made it. We've made it halfway through this game.
We've made it. What do we get? Do we get something for this?
I don't know, but we're going to find out.
Should we get like a plaque or something to commemorate it? We can hang it up in the studio.
May I put it on one of Jack's pillows? The Deimos gone. I quite like that removal on this map. I think they're very powerful in clearing the top two, and we know that MACKO like to play aggressively, like to try and hunt for fights. It's a very quick, uncontested breach. So none of that to around juggling.
We brought the tub, and he's roaming upstairs of all his util.
Why?
Activated trap.
Oh dear, I don't know, but I mean, this is the way you hit console. You hit it hard, and you just try and cheese it. This is exactly what Wolves did not do. You commit, and that's what MACKO were doing. They've got in the Yings, they've got the Glass, they're sticking the plant now. This is how you attack Consulate.
A random track stinger cracks. He's in a fight. He's about to fight when he doesn't know.
He's lost him.
No. Two stories of soft to watch through. And MACKO just blinded their way in. Tyrant is moving closer. They're opening up more angles here. Akwi is, I mean, he doesn't really need to be on this story. He's waiting for the retake, and that's a good idea, but his leader goes down, leaves just Noodle left alive. At this point, I think he can probably drop down a floor. 13 seconds, and credit to MACKO. As you said, it was exactly
this is what you do. Yeah.
It was snappy. They adjusted in the middle. Obviously, the clash placement was good. There was the throw of the smokes. There was the danger that was going in the middle. But then they just moved where the kit was. They had the two-story vertical because they expected people to try and retake from above. So they went above and above.
Yeah.
They didn't expect the player on the top floor, but the top floor player didn't expect the other player on the top floor.
The top floor player should never be there. Why is, like, one, he's a tub, okay? We've seen the way that MACKO used their own tub whenever they were defending the site. They used it to slow down that breach for what? Good, 40 seconds at least. It felt like that. You look at the difference in Wolves. You had a Tabaro roaming top floor. Whenever there was really no interest for MACKO to really take that mid floor or hunt roamers, they just wanted to go direct and have that one guy upstairs lurking for that diffuser going down, and they can just play an easy vert. That top should always be in sight, tricking that wall. He wasn't there. He went out on his roam. He went and did his own thing. Makes no sense. And whenever there's smokes and yings and everything going into that site, he is still above. Still above. His team are getting drowned in sight, and he's still upstairs.
I think that's the main sort of thing that you have to try and work out there is why, other than a mistake, really. And you always want to give the benefit of the sort of operator position and a doubt, but unless there's some... Ooh, okay, there's Noodle doing Noodle things. Gets them off to an... They're going for the plant demo. They're in. Surely something's going to happen. Surely someone's going to do something about this. No! Doesn't matter if Superman's coming out soon. Nobody is aware. They even had the setup, but they were just caught sleeping, and there's got to be a timeout after this demo. They're going to try and play the C4 into the window. They hit against the air jab. There's still the danger of their own Goyos and stuff being operated and played against them. Dropping down underneath to try and fight the player there. They have to play this pitch perfect. Maybe a smoke canister onto the window. Force them further away. That's sort of
shotgun.
Where I would go, and Lolo gets Tyrant. They're in, they're fighting. Krex is out. Gets one for his trouble. And it's a very hard retake, but with 5 seconds left. mean, so usually I'm the positive one and you're the more sort of pointed one.
I was making accusations?
No, comparisons. I mean, okay, obviously something was happening there in the background that they read up, but I'm wondering what is the disconnect between Wolves' early sort of setup and MACKO is obviously taking great advantage of this. You have to give credit there. They got the diffuser down. You know, the opening kill was at 244. It was the peak back against, and that didn't stop them. They still just went for it, got the plant down. Maybe 20 seconds later, there was nobody that was immediately countering it. There was still all utility in pocket. Is it that Wolves, they're just, whatever their setup is a bit too much trust, and MACKO's read that, oh, they don't finish setting up until 2:30. Great, we can pressure on.
I mean, just where is the team?
10 seconds left.
We kind of flicked on it, you know, the observer flicked onto the guy planting. There was already an Ash so deep into that bomb site. He went in first, and he was like pushed up way past Baguette as well, like nearly into the other bomb site. That's how close that guy was. And you just think, how has he been allowed to walk up that? Where is the team? Where are they? Are they here? Missing person, missing team. I don't know. You're gonna need Mr. Incorporated on this, I think.
So, this is the one round to roll through on.
Bring team here.
At this point, I mean, Wolves just have to be perfect ahead of them. MACKO, they haven't immediately thrown themselves in. We're back to the same site, and they realize it's not going to work twice. But instead, well, they're free and uncontested to start trying to get rid of some of the stuff underneath. It seems like the lessons of Let's Roam have been learnt and punished enough that they are no longer doing it. All of them back towards the site and waiting for MACKO to appear. MACKO happy to still play in towards the setup, get themselves the work underneath, and now start trying to make their way up. There's the bait on the first smoke canister. They obviously still have C4, they still have some potential, 3 of them across the team, and you assume that bulletproof is right in position. They are waiting for exactly the same plant, and at this point, it's Noodle in control of vending that gets rid of Acqui. There's the C4, gets on Dora, and that is the kit cold on the default plant spot. So now at this point, MACKO surely won't be able to pull this one together. Wolves, they just need to sit on their hands and let them come to them.
Yeah, tricky now for MACKO to get themselves back in, considering that they've lost that Thatcher, who they, again, have been bringing in specifically to stop the C4s being tossed out, because you didn't know, a C4 can be EMP'd mid-air if you time it well. So that is why you bring in that operator specifically for that top floor, but obviously losing that, and again, just losing that initial, first take. Really difficult now for them to try and get this back on track, but they will attempt it nonetheless. The Brim goes in with player covering, but surely the C4 will connect, and it will. So, yeah, good for Wolves. MACKO, not much they could really do about that, to be honest. Maybe should have looked for getting some kills first before attempting that, but hey, they've committed to it anyway. And yeah, 2v5, which should be pretty easy for Wolves to capitalize out on, and yeah, it will be. Just the one guy left downstairs, Ghost. Not much he can do unless he has been gifted with the powers of every pro player alive combined into one. I don't even think that person could clutch this. That's how difficult it is.
No, this one is, I think, as soon as the kit was in that position, they still had 2 C4s, and you could see that they weren't throwing themselves at it great. And it's energy that they finally latched onto, but now they've got to just try and thread it a few more times. We've seen teams come back from worse situations. It's not over till it's over. That is Rainbow Six, and at this point, they can start trying to put themselves back together piece by piece. They take their first sort of defense for a while. Now they'll see if they can try and add more. As we get the Grim and the Warden gone. Well, that gives you an idea of how they want to try and plant down in the basement. There's the tac timeout. Okay.
Is it too little too late, though?
I don't know. I mean, I wasn't going to say anything when they didn't take it after the last round. I was like, at that point, you know, they know their headspace and their comms better than anything. Maybe they want to save it after a success. As you can tell, I think we no longer do listen-ins. I don't know if this is the first show since that change has come in.
No, it was the last play day.
Last week. All right, then I don't have to explain anything. You guys expect it. I'm not talking over anything. Yeah, you know, you don't know the headspace, but it looked a lot more controlled. It looked like a team that had sort of taken a timeout before the last round, and that's good. They were overcooking. They were overheating.
We can only assume what they talk about because again, we don't have the privy anymore. I will miss our kind of, you know, our special section that Leo comes in after the Jet G timeout. Yeah, I'm gonna miss that segment.
I think Leo should just do that anytime.
We might get him on. See what we can do.
Attackers have located a bomb.
I think we should be able to have a little Leo soundboard.
Leo soundboard.
To play at any point. Right. As I said, they banned out the man with the glasses that can see through smoke. And to be fair, they played against the smoke and the glass last time round. I think they just, yep, they just want to do the same thing again because it worked. They haven't got the Clash this time. They haven't got the Tubarao this time, which, you know,
5 seconds remaining.
makes sense. They barely had the Tubarao last time, gadget-wise.
Yeah, well, it's a split bomb site this time, so a little bit off the beaten track for Wolves. Generally, this is our 4th played bomb site out of the 4 that we have on Consulate. Yeah. And the reason why is you're dealing with a pretty unique thing where the bomb sites are on 2 separate floors, which makes things quite difficult unless you have an easy access of denial. And that mostly being a pulse with a C4. That is the main way we see this bomb site be defended. If anyone wants to try and plant in towards that mid floor, it will be dealt with C4s. And speaking of, Tyrant's been able to get Acqui, but not before that. Still, MACKO were able to take down Kretz. So an early start, a fast start from MACKO, getting stuck in, leaving nothing behind, but still a 4v4 as we head in to around the 2-minute 15 mark. So right now for MACKO, it's about establishing map control. From based on where they are, they still have 2 options. I mean, I assume they're going to try and take in towards the mid floor because they've taken that side of the map. They've taken in towards piano. You've got a guy lingering outside the front door, but they still have the option if they want to rotate in towards the basement. They've got the blitz there, which will be great at pushing down the construction tunnel specifically. You know, you're just taking that one-way gunfight, that heads-up gunfight. Shields, we know, are great in that department.
I think it's one of the things as well. I sort of made the assumption that when they're attacking this floor in the basement, they would do a similar thing to try and smash their way in behind the cover of blinds. They haven't. Instead, they've come in from the opposite end. They've got the blitz trying to get some clear. They're taking it sort of block by block and cutting their way all the way across. And as Dora gets halfway in and then backs themselves out, they're still not entirely confident that they're not going to be surrounded. Now, there is one loose player on yellow that we can see, but instead it's the blitz that's actually going to step up, and whoever is on that backstab is probably that potential. It's Tyrant on the far end, and obviously there's still some pressure underneath, but Tyrant is making his move round towards benches, sort of having this all called towards him, and instead pulls off the players above. It's a minute. They're well aware of where the blitz is going, and they just pull their way out because they don't need to go against it. There's the plant. They're trying to draw the attention. Will they take the bait? You can see they're just spraying up towards it. Dora has moved off. They got themselves in an engagement. They weren't able to lock in the plant itself. The fight was from above and from below. MACKO did not have enough sort of control here to be able to get themselves locked in, and there's Tyrant's rotate that I talked about a while ago. Gets Lolo. The blitz is gone, instantly traded out by Teb, and they're still back and forth. But without that single shield, it makes things very risky to try and find a single safe haven to get a plant itself. They're going for the cover. They need to fight down, which is what they're going to try and do here. Slipping their way, but as Ghost gets caught out, there's an important fight out there, and they can find a single spot to plant in the bulletproof. Gets the drop, and here's the drop on the hatch. Noodle trying to get closer and closer as Dora goes for the plant itself, watching for the cover here. Teb, but he's not quite sure. They are, though. Good bulletproofs, great information.
Really good round. I think both teams actually played that not too bad. You seen that MACKO at that stage losing the blitz. You kind of lose that driving force. And again, they're desperate to try and get that diffuser down, but they just couldn't do it inside of tellers because a lot of different angles were opened up from not only below, but also above. They actually assessed that pretty well. They knew where two of them were, which was top floor and then flanking in through spiral, and they knew the last guy was downstairs. So they took the triple team and they thought, let's just push the guy downstairs. You know, you gang up on him. Azure did well to get one, but then was very swiftly traded out. And you think, okay, MACKO in a great position. They've got full control of that bottom floor bomb site. You go for the plant, but then a great heads-up play from Noodle, realizing where they're probably going to plant, and just goes above and shotguns it. You know, I think a great battle of wits there for both sides. Very impressed.
So 6-4, and the timeout has gotten us closer than where this game was not that long ago. From this point onwards, I mean, are they going to be able to lock themselves in? We're back towards that idea. The Dokkaebi calls, the chance of planting behind the glass, the smokes, the coverage, all of that. But then you look at the Wolves lineup, and it goes back to the game that they've grown on, locking themselves in. Let MACKO try and play against you. Let MACKO try and be a bit sharp, and a bit snappy. I'm still inventing words, Demo. And let's see if they can try and cut their way through now. They have the Bandit to play against it. There was nothing on this wall last time round, and it's not impossible to get off, but it buys time. And time seems to be the resource Wolves have learnt to utilize recently.
Swapping mags.
Obviously, last time we were down here in the basement, it was a bit of a blunder from Wolves. They just didn't have the players in the right position. And MACKO hit it hard with that Ying and Glass combo. But now with that main wall being fortified by those bandit batteries being brought in, does make things a little bit more tricky, of course. Again, Krex is still up here, by the way, on the top roaming about. You know, like, I don't know why he's not downstairs. You need that util. I hope, honestly, Aki should punish him, but just, he's annoying me right now. The fact that he did it once, yeah, we'll let it by, but he's doing it again. It's a basement bomb site. Get down and use your util.
As well as, like, all I'm trying to understand is why you wouldn't be playing Valk in this situation, because you can roam around, you can offer more utility use whilst being far away. The Tuberau gadget is just not as I've seen coming into it, and that's like the only thing. Like, I know people have gun preferences for moving around. You have the C4 utility preferences, but you have another operator that can bring all of that.
Yeah, there we go.
And now you've offered us, unfortunately, just time taken away, and
he's run by himself as well again. You know, he's just out there on his own against MACKO. We've already talked about the aggression and the synergy of this team. Why are you doing it? You're asking for trouble. Oh, dear. Oh, dear. Tyrant has left his post. He wasn't covering the door. And somehow, some way, Teb has just slipped in, killed leader as he was making a rotate, and then somehow has enough time to get back out again and not die.
Well, there's Noodle getting one back, brings it to not the worst deficit, but they are still playing with one down. However, within this final 40 seconds is the time for them to try and get the plant. They've flipped and pivoted their way down, pressure on towards the server side, and a flank up is punished by Lolo. And they had the man advantage to sit and wait, and now it's a 4 versus 2, 30 seconds. How are MACKO going to try and get this one to land? We've seen rounds end on dying throws and clutches. Oh, it's a trade out and an engagement, but Tyrant gets one more, a 1 versus 2. There's a fight to his left. He gets the first bite. He needs to finish it, and it's dropped. Now he pulls away, but he can't make it. MACKO. They're able to find the end of the fight, and that is their game to lock in with 3 points.